Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Heidi Riggs. Mr. Chairman, I am here before the committee because I represent the collateral damage the heroin and opioid epidemic has had on every community in the state of Ohio. I represent one of the thousands of moms who have lost a child to a heroin overdose. My daughter Marin died 7 years ago, January 28, 2012, 2 weeks after her 20th birthday. She was beautiful, smart, had a smile that lit up the room, and then she was gone. From the time we found out she was using heroin, she only lived 18 months. She was my everything, and since her death, I have taken my pain and turned it towards advocacy. Since my daughter's passing, my goal has been to do whatever I can to prevent another mother from having to live with the inconsolable pain I'm still forced to live with every day. The last 7 years, I have found myself questioning this epidemic and the magnitude of lives lost to this disease sweeping across the state and the nation. During one of the first meetings, the director drew 4 squares on a whiteboard. He labeled them supply, distribution, community, and treatment. He said the first 2 squares are mostly controlled by foreign entities and internal gangs such as MS-13, and they are multi-billion-dollar organizations. The square labeled treatment is where lots of public dollars go, and sadly, it's an industry that's growing at a dramatic rate. The final square is community. This is where the resources are being drained. This is the neighborhood level, our Ohio neighborhoods, where families lose kids, EMTs are constantly called to revive overdose victims, and police and sheriff departments are facing an enemy with massive resources and unlimited supply of drugs. After that meeting, I attended a briefing on cartel operations on the southern border. Until then, I had no idea the level of sophistication these organizations operated at, and it made me very angry. Then, to top it off, I later saw the National Drug Threat Assessment Report published by the DEA. I looked at Ohio, and there was Dayton and Columbus. And sadly, not only are these drugs distribution points, but they are also collection and distribution points for human trafficking. The Mexican drug cartels don't fly planes into buildings, but they aggressively ship poison into our communities. They control and destroy families. And it is my hope that by putting this resolution before the U.S. Congress, we can help reverse this deadly trend. Because, Mr. Chairman, if this epidemic is not stopped, it will eventually change the landscape of our state and nation forever.
Right now, the cartels are really, really smart. They took over the command and control leadership from the Colombian South American organizations on all drugs, meth, cocaine, heroin, and now, of course, the synthetic opioid fentanyl. They're in 50 countries or more. They're operating all over the United States. They're operating like a Fortune 500 company, except one caveat. The devastating violence that they are pushing out, not just in Mexico, but around the world, is beyond what we've ever seen.
This state has been known as ground zero for the heroin and opioid epidemic. The DEA identified Dayton and Columbus as a major cartel distribution point. The Mexican drug cartels are operating on Ohio soil. Think about that. While you're trying to legislate, while you're trying to protect your people and your sons and daughters, the Mexican drug cartels are looking at Ohio like they look at Georgia, like they look at Virginia, as a potential marketing place to gain more and more addicts, infiltrate the school systems, make their money, and bring it back to Mexico and continue to perpetuate this horrific epidemic, and I call it a terrorist action. Just like the heroin and opioid epidemic, human trafficking has become a worldwide epidemic that global health organizations estimate enslaves between 21 to 30 million people. Mr. Chairman and members of the Criminal Justice Committee, I commend you for taking this step, a step that no other state has been willing to take. We can pour more money into recovery, and that is very important. But unless we focus on the source and distribution, this epidemic will be with us forever.
Bottom line is the state of Ohio is inundated with crime, drugs, violence, fueled by the Mexican drug cartels. The cartels are taking advantage of these people that are addicted. So, if you want to declare a group a terrorist organization, just look at the State Department's website. They must be a foreign organization, check. The organization must engage in terrorism, check. The organization, terrorist activity or terrorism must threaten the security of U.S. nationals or national security, check. Long overdue for this designation in Washington, but they're asleep. They're not getting it done, and people are dying.